Hey everyone, welcome to the Matt Report. As always, I'm your host, Matt, and this is the show where we talk to real WordPress entrepreneurs from all walks of life, designers, developers, marketers, bloggers, authors. They join the show to teach us how they did it so that they can help us in our journey with WordPress and making a living using WordPress. If you haven't watched the show, where the heck have you been? It's the #1 WordPress podcast in the world. So do tune in, do check me out on iTunes. mattreport.com/subscribe. Today, joined by Adam Warner. Adam, how are you?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Great.
Good.
You are co-founder, lead handshaker of FooPlugins. Give folks the 2-minute elevator pitch, who you are, what you do.
As you said, I'm co-founder of FooPlugins along with Brad Vincent, known primarily for the site thememergency.com. And we have created FooPlugins, and that came from an initial plugin that we created called FooBox back in June of 2012. So FooPlugins is a plugin marketplace where we have our own paid and free plugins, WordPress and jQuery, and we are just days away from announcing officially the open marketplace for third-party developers. We are working with a few developers now to get them on board and cutting through all the technical details to make everything work as we want it. And FooPlugins aims to be the largest plugin marketplace.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's not just WordPress. It's also jQuery. Are you planning on opening up to different to other plugins for other platforms?
At this point, no. We're focused primarily on WordPress and jQuery because that's our specialties. But it's other platforms is not out of the question, but that's probably down the road at least a year or two.
Awesome. This is a special show. This is a show where we're going to really dive into the revenue, what folks can make in the WordPress plugin and theme marketplace. I tweeted out and I reached out to some folks in the audience to find anyone who's making over $5,000 a month in revenue with either theme sales or plugin sales. You reached out. I picked that number sort of thinking, hey, the solopreneur, nice round number, might be 60 grand a year to make a decent living. So you're going to share some of those numbers later on, so folks stay tuned for that. But how did you get into WordPress? Where did you find, what was your aha moment to know that WordPress was a business?
Well, it was back in 2004, shortly after WordPress became WordPress. I had always been doing little side businesses here and there and working full-time, as many of us do, and try to ride the line between both. I was running a business making DVD memorial videos for a few local funeral homes that I partnered with. And I had been building my own sites prior to that, straight up hand typing everything, HTML, and I was looking for something to get into the blogging space because I heard you could drive traffic that way and get customers. So I started looking around at Hikari and Joomla, and then I found WordPress. And WordPress, the UI just spoke to me. It made sense to me more than the other platforms. So I started experimenting with that, and then ended up moving that DVD memorial site to WordPress. And back in 2004, like I said, it was all about blogging. So you had plugins that did certain things and had a lot of things that didn't work and things that worked. So it's been a long journey from there until now. And through my experience, I started blogging about using WordPress and how to do certain things. When I figured things out, I experimented with making my own themes and making my own plugins. And that has all transitioned into now FooPlugins. And I'm a firm believer that one step leads to the other, and that you have to continually learn and adapt. And so that's what's happened.
Mm-hmm. And when you started out, you bring up a good point. You have to learn. You have to adapt. There's a lot of experiences that folks think that they, might not hit or might not even need to worry about, like running a business, cash flow, things like that. I mean, when you started out, were you thinking, hey, I want to create this revenue stream, this cash flow? Was that on the map, or was it just like, hey, I'm just looking for business to keep me?
No, it absolutely wasn't on the map when I first started. I started with a site called WordPressModder.org, and I had to change the domain name years ago to WPModder.com. And my intent then was really just to share tutorials and give back to the community, because I found so much help on WordPress.org on the forums, and through other people doing the same thing with writing about how they were doing certain things. And so once that site got built up, I started taking on client work, building websites for family and friends, and then that transitioned into larger client sites. And along that road, I started thinking, well, how can I monetize this? Right, so I tried AdSense. I tried selling individual ads to individual people, and various other techniques, and I was never really happy with the monetization techniques that were out there, because I didn't want to dilute my content and put it out there and say, hey, I'm just trying to make a buck. So I had this internal battle for years with how to monetize my WordPress stuff, aside from client work, how to monetize my WordPress websites without being the snake oil salesman marketer type of guy. Mm-hmm. And a few years ago, it finally clicked that I could do things in an honest and open way, and make money at it. And that was kind of my aha moment, where when I learned that you can do things the right way, instead of trying to trick people, as a lot of marketers do.
Yeah, well, no, and we talked early on in the show about, or before the show, about this. There's a lot. So here's my 30-second rant with WordPress, that the barrier is so low to get into WordPress, to install WordPress, set up some themes and some plugins, that we see some really poor solutions out there, whether in the client service space or even in the plugin theme space. And then there's some like malicious stuff going on in the theme and plugin space that people have to be aware of. People that are starting out looking to find a business using WordPress, they're going to run into that snake oil markety, build a list for a penny and, spam to 1,000 people and sell your digital product, all that fun stuff.
Right. And if I could just interject, that comes down, I think, to the intent of the person who wants to use WordPress for anything. If your intent is to use WordPress because you know it's easy to do and you can sell stuff to people easily, then you're not taking the right approach. If you're in it for the money, that's not the right place to be. There's nothing wrong with an entrepreneurial type of person saying, well, I can use WordPress to leverage this, but it's really about the intent on having a good product or service and leveraging WordPress to do that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Totally agree. So you say your aha moment kind of clicked a couple years ago. Do you remember that first sale through the official FooPlugins site?
Well, it was pre-FooPlugins.
Okay.
So I had started my first main monetization after the ads and things didn't work out was to use WordPress multi-site, and it was known as MU back then, to create a blogging community, and it was called Indie Lab. And what I did was provide blogs for artists, photographers, musicians, that sort of thing, and it was all free. And then I upsold them on extra space on the server, or I would sell them custom themes that I had some partners that were making, or even some turning on premium plugins, that sort of thing. And that was going very well. And part of the hard lesson that I learned was I didn't focus on security, and I didn't focus on hosting. So that site got hacked and bad. There was porn links everywhere. So we had upwards of 5,000 sites on there, and the money was coming in. I was still working full time, but rather than continue with trying to fix it, there weren't services like Security. The hosts were hit or miss on whether they could help you or not. I decided to kill the site and regroup, refocus, and start again.
Wow.
So it was
wow. I wasn't expecting that story. That's an interesting story. I mean, do you mind sharing what the revenues numbers were like with that company?
This was about in probably 2007, 2008, I think.
Yep.
And I was making about 2,500 a month
Nice.
on that. So it was a nice little nest egg to have.
Yep.
I didn't put as much away as I should have. I was so excited that I was making money, and that I kind of just went haywire with the money, and I didn't buy anything expensive, but
Right.
I was comfortable,
Right.
so it helped. And it was hard to let that go, but after a couple of weeks of dealing with trying to clean it up and looking on forums and trying to get help from people, I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't make sense that I would just kill the site that was making that much revenue. But
That was my next question.
yeah. I think it was more just a gut feeling and intuition. And at the same time, I was working for a subsidiary of Amazon, and I was really trying to focus on that position and trying to move up there. And I guess what I did is I made the decision that maybe it was too hard or there was too much risk. So I was going to climb the corporate ladder, So, and it's still, when I think about it today, I think, well, what if I would have just continued with that? Would that have been hugely successful? I don't know. But I chalk it up to a lesson.
Did you just kill it off, or did you sell the property?
No, I just killed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you deal with the customer feedback with that?
Well, it took a few months, and there was a lot of apologetic emails, and I made a lot of refunds, to tell you the truth. So it was basically, hey, this happened. We're working to try and fix it, and I'm really sorry. And then there was a series of those, and basically that was kind of the beginning of the transparency aspect of running your own online business. Because before then, I was always behind the scenes. I wasn't. My name was never out there, and I was the Indie Lab manager, that kind of thing. So I basically just took a big gulp and took my medicine, and there was obviously some people that were upset, but at that time there were other platforms to move to, and we did some exports of several of the sites there as best as I could, being that it was multi-site and there was no easy way to export, and I got some help with that. But I basically used the built-in export tools to give people their posts and content and that sort of thing. So it wasn't pleasant, but it was definitely a learning experience for me and probably for some of our customers too.
Yeah. I want to dive into your gut feelings with that, because it's a very interesting story. When you decided to say, you know what, I'm just going to kill this, or when you knew that the impact of whatever happened, the spamming and the viruses and stuff like that, was it like, oh man, shucks, I'm losing this $30,000 a year revenue, or was it like, this is what I was really trying to build, and now it's all burning to the ground? What was the gut feeling when it was kind of collapsing? It was like, hey, I got a full-time job, it's okay.
Well, it was a little bit of both. Not the full-time job thing, but the revenue was awesome. But again, it wasn't about the money. My intent was more to give people the tools to get their stuff out there, right? And I'm not some altruistic guy. We all need to make revenue. I'm not trying to come off like that, but it was more. I've learned my lesson. I need to focus more on the technical side of things instead of just using this tool to put this out there and then succeed at it. So I guess the realization came with I couldn't do it all myself. That was a big one, because once you learn that that's happening and you are focused 100% on trying to fix things, and things just aren't working out for you, for me in my case, and it just I probably just got to the end of my rope with I can't do this, and if I can't do it the right way, then it's probably not worth moving forward. In retrospect, I probably could have taken a couple of months off and then reintroduced the site and hired some people to do it right. But again, that was part of the lesson of not putting money back into the business as much as I should have with hiring developers and security people and that sort of thing. So again, it was a lesson learned, and maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, but I think it worked out well in the long run.
Is there one thing that you take away from that you think if you just did this one thing differently, it would have saved that business?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The well, it was a couple of things. First, getting a host that was more focused on security, which was kind of tough. There was no WordPress managed hosting at that time. Security plugins were few and far between as far as being robust. But that would be the number one thing. Focus on protecting your business. So an online business, a website, is just like any storefront. You have to have surveillance cameras and security. You have to have locks and locks on the doors and maybe security guard and that sort of thing. So if that was one lesson from the whole thing, it was to focus on the securing the business.
That's hey, it's a great point, especially when you're dealing with infrastructure. It's really what your product is based on. I mean, the outside of it's just the front end, but really what keeps it up and running is the host. And definitely for those folks that are out there that are doing this kind of business, definitely be aware of that. Well, we could wrap up the show with that because people have just learned a tremendous amount. Because I hate to put it this way, but failures are our best lessons, right?
Absolutely, a firm believer in that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm drafting up a post for WP Daily right now, and I'm talking about I've never really learned anything of immense value with a really good client. Right? Client comes in, they pay on time, we do an awesome job, they love the product, they're out the door. That's what I'm supposed to do. I haven't really learned anything.
Right. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. And that's the words I use. Easy peasy in my article. It's when you stumble and fail, like you forget something in a contract, or their expectations were not your expectations, and then you learn from these experiences. So, safe to say that probably planted the seed for FooBox, or excuse me, FooPlugins. Take us down now. Now you said, hey, I've kind of crashed and burned over here. I'm going to do things the right way when I get into the marketplace?
Yeah, so after that experience, and again, that was several years ago, I scaled back. I focused on my corporate job, and one thing led to another. I was still doing client work and that sort of stuff. And then I thought, well, I need to start creating my own products. So that was another aha moment, was client work is tough. Right? There's a lot of time involved in your initial conversations, proposals, back and forths, specs, all that jazz. And when I was working full time and trying to do that on the side, that digs into your family life, as probably you know, and a lot of people listening know. So the aha moment was, I need to create a product. And because of my experience with Indie Lab, that product wasn't necessarily going to be a full-on website. So I experimented with another site I have called WP Pro Business, and I experimented with some membership options. So I had content just for members, I had some video tutorials, that sort of thing. But when I really got started with making revenue was when I created a PDF document and a series of videos on how to install WordPress multi-site on HostGator, how to configure and install. So with that product, I put it on the Warrior Forum because I had quite a following, but not as many multi-site specific people as I wanted. So I experimented with Warrior Forum, and as you know, there's a lot of good and bad on the Warrior Forum. Probably safe to say mostly bad, and I don't want to make anybody angry if they're warriors, but
yeah, for folks that don't know, because I think that maybe my audience might not know about Warrior Forum because they're coming into it from either a freelancer, developer, or designer, not so much the marketing and business side of things. So Warrior Forum, great place or great sort of.
It is a great place, but you have to kind of weed through some of the not so pleasant stuff.
Yeah, it's like it's. I envision it like the Denzel Washington movie. God, I can't remember. It's just going over my head right now. But it's almost like a wasteland of frontier, like
right.
Journeyman. All of a sudden, you walk into a bar and you find the real good guys or the real bad guys. But it's a great place for learning some SEO tactics, inbound marketing stuff, all that fun stuff. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, well, so the Warrior Forum is an internet marketing forum where you can, of course, learn a lot of stuff. And I spent months reading people's opinions on how to do different things, basically how to market your product, whatever it was. It doesn't have to be WordPress based; it could be anything. And so then you can put a a thread on that forum that sells your product, right? So you see a lot of mile-long sales letters and then a buy now button, and then it's all about getting people into your process flow and having upsells and downsells and this and that. So I experimented with that product and started making sales and starting getting a lot of positive feedback. And I think the positive feedback was due to the fact that my intent was really to teach people, not just to throw a product out there and make some money, right? So that experience was really helpful in becoming transparent even more, because with that system you get people onto your email list, and then you can market other products to them and that sort of thing. And in that journey I had gotten on probably over 100 marketers' lists and started really looking at the emails they sent and if they were really providing value. And some were, and some were not at all. They would just send you an email every day with some other affiliate link. So I took the approach to be transparent. I started sending emails about once a week with updates on what I was doing, about my other sites, about the product, and some about my personal life with the advent of my wife's pregnancy and then the birth of our son and that sort of stuff. And it really became about creating trust between myself and people who purchase my product. So fast forward a little bit to June of 2012. Well, it was probably February of 2012. I was working on a client site, and he had a Gravity Forms installation, and he needed some customizations to Gravity Forms. And I got on the Gravity Forms forum and was helped by this guy named Brad, who I'd never met before, but he was super helpful. And then we took the conversation offline, and I said, can I just hire you? Because obviously you know exactly what you're doing, and I don't, and I need your help. And that was Brad Vincent. And after that job, we continued talking. I had a lot of plugin ideas, and I'm more, again, like the marketing side of things and the community outreach and that sort of thing. And he's a straight up code monkey programmer guy, but he has a lot of good marketing knowledge too. So we commiserated on some jQuery stuff that he had, and I had this idea to make images more social, and that was the advent of FooBox, which is a responsive image Lightbox plugin that also has a social sharing layer built in. And we released that in June of 2012 on its own site, and it's gone well. And that was kind of the beginning of our business partnership.
Mm-hmm. How much was how much were you selling the plugin for at the time?
Well, we have 3 license levels: personal, multi, and business. And we initially launched it on Warrior Forum to get a good customer base. And we had I think we started at $9 for just the personal license, and then it went on a dime sale, which the price increases with every so many sales, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Another marketing tactic to create scarcity, that sort of thing, which I wasn't really into, but because I had just done my launch on Warrior Forum, I was all about doing it. So we created our customer base there, and then we have our normal prices, which are $27 for personal, $47 for multi-site, which is between 1 and 5 sites, and then the business, which is unlimited websites that you own or for your clients, for $97.
Mm-hmm. How was that Warrior launch? When I interviewed Travis Ketchum of Contest Domination, I mean, he did like 15,000 gross in his first launch. Similar results for you?
No, absolutely not. So when you launch on Warrior Forum, there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of things involved to get you those kind of numbers. I think our launch was probably about 3,200 total, and it really depends on if you do an affiliate pre-launch where you notify your lists, and of course that depends on how big your email lists are. If you have 10,000 people, then that's a pretty good start, and you get affiliates on, and then they start creating the buzz, and then several days later you have the launch and it's discounted and that sort of thing, and then you've got all the Warrior Forum affiliates coming on to promote your product because they see it's kind of the next big thing. So it was about 3,200, give or take, for that. But then we did a little back-end marketing through the emails with similar products that we believed in. So it was a good learning experience, but I don't think we'll be launching anything on Warrior Forum for a while, because we wanted to really go off on our own and create our own brand with FooBox first, but now we've done that with FooPlugins.
What's the is it the bad taste in your mouth from having to deal with affiliates? Is it just not the right fit for like support? You know, they're going out and reselling it, and God knows how they're pitching this product to other folks. I mean, did you get a lot of kickback from, you know, the end user from the affiliate saying, "Hey, this isn't exactly what I wanted. It's not doing what I want. How can you help me install this?"
Well, it's a little bit of everything, really. So first of all, the revenue that we brought in and the time that we've spent developing the plugin previous together didn't really. So really, we were in the red, right? So all the money and time we spent developing, and it's mostly time, didn't account for that revenue, right? So, but then of course you do have that specific market. There's a lot of people looking for really low price stuff and a lot of freebie seekers. So that created a lot of support overhead with, hey, can I upgrade this for free because I bought the personal license, which, you know, is not necessarily, I'm not downing anybody, but that's not the business model we were after. And then, of course, like you mentioned, you do have affiliates that are promoting things maybe not in the way that you want them to, right? So they can promise the world, and then a customer buys it and they come back to us and say, hey, it doesn't do this. And we say, well, if you read our description page, it's not supposed to. Well, so-and-so told me this. So it wasn't a bad experience, and I'm not downing the Warrior Forum at all. It's a great place to get started, but that's what I think it is, a place to get started with your own products.
Yeah, and actually now the analogy has popped back into my head. It's more like Star Wars when Darth Vader is in front of all the bounty hunters looking to go after Han Solo, and you got 15 different bounty hunters, and they're all going to go after him in their own unique way, and they're all going to kill each other, and they're trying to get there. It's almost like that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a free-for-all.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's get into, fast forward into building out the products that you have today. How many products do you have, and let's talk about the monthly revenue that you're seeing with that.
Okay, so we launched FooPlugins officially at WordCamp Miami in April 5th of this year. There was a lot of time spent, of course, building the site out. So we have 8 products that we launched with. Some are jQuery, some are WordPress plugins, some are free, some are paid. There's 4 free, 4 paid. And some of those were specifically developed for FooPlugins like Social Wiggle Lite and Social Wiggle Pro. But we also have FooBar, jQuery, and WordPress, and then FooBar Pro. And that was a plugin that Brad has had on Code Canyon for quite a while. That is currently being transitioned into the payment system of FooPlugins. And of course, we've just now moved FooBox into FooPlugins as well for our launch. So some of the costs associated with launching FooPlugins, of course, was time spent first figuring out, I don't know how far back you want me to go, but first we had to figure out the correct host that we wanted. We ended up going with WP Engine. And then we had to figure out what theme we wanted to use. We went with a theme by Jake Caputo. And then we had to figure out what plugins we wanted to help power the backend, and specifically e-commerce stuff. So we looked at a bunch of them. We have both used several of them, but we decided on Easy Digital Downloads by Pippin because there was a lot of extensions there that we could leverage, and we do have some extensions planned for EDD as well. And we really liked the openness of his community, of his developer community. I'm sure you're aware that he's got, I don't know, 40 plus developers on his Trello boards and stuff, and so we had to make everything work. We launched on April 5th, and the thing we were going for mostly was not really revenue right away. We were going for brand identity, right? So we wanted people to know we existed. So we asked people to tweet it and Facebook it, and all the attendees of WordCamp and that sort of thing. So and then on the other side of that, we still had FooBox on its own domain where it had been since June. So part of the leveraging of FooBox was excuse me, part of the leveraging of that domain was to make sure all of those customers knew about FooPlugins as well. So the revenue for the first month of the FooPlugins launch kind of is mixed with the continual revenue of Get FooBox, right? So when Get FooBox first launched after the Warrior Forum, we were at about probably in between 800 and 900 a month. And then we started getting larger affiliates on. We have integrated with Next Gen Gallery. So we got some guys from Next Gen that became aware of FooBox, and it works great with their customers. So we get a lot of traffic and revenue from them. And every month it's grown. So right now we're doing about 5,500 a month with FooBox and Social Wiggle Pro. And FooBar is kind of out there too. So really the bread and butter is FooBox right now. We have probably 24 different plugins planned that are half developed, and a couple of them are getting really close to being developed. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I don't want to go on too long.
So take us back. You went from roughly, so you had your launch, you did about $3,200 in revenue. You went from there, it was a steady recurring revenue of, let's say, $1,000 a month. Now we're at 5,500. What was the time frame between those, from the launch to about what you're doing now? It's about
it was June 2012 to April when we launched FooPlugins. So we're approaching a year.
And your month to month growth. What was that spurred by? Was it SEO, search stuff, word of mouth, or was it more affiliate linking and growing it?
Well, it was really a mix of everything. And if there's one thing I'd like people with their own themes or plugins or other WordPress-related products to know, it's one important part of your business is community outreach, right? So you have to SEO everything so you get good search results, or the best you can. But it's really about community outreach and making sure that people know about you, right? So I've been in the WordPress community for a long time. I'm on Twitter promoting all the time without trying to be too promotional. But we also gave a lot of stuff away, contests and that sort of thing. And building the affiliates, we tried to specifically target different services and plugins with FooBox that they worked with that we knew had large communities. So Next Gen Gallery is a perfect example of that. I don't want to give their numbers, but they're by far the largest affiliate every month. And out of that 5,500 gross, we're paying a good amount to probably about 3 or 4 larger affiliates. So part of the growth has been, of course, getting people to blog about it, to share on social networks, and making sure that support is A1 and as good as it can be. When we first launched FooBox, Brad and I were doing support ourselves, and both of us were working at the time. Well, I wasn't working. I had actually quit my job and focused more on this. So support, we wanted to make sure was good, and we get a lot of good feedback from support, and we've had some headaches with different systems that we've used. But so support and making sure you integrate with other services and making sure you're out there talking to people. Just send an email to someone that you respect in the community and say, hey, this is who I am and this is what we've got, and I wonder if you have any use for it. Here's a free copy if you like it. Maybe you can help us promote.
Sure. What are you using to track your affiliates and do your affiliate sales?
Well, we started on Get FooBox. We started with our affiliate program with eJunkie. So Brad was familiar with eJunkie; he had used it before, and so we have our affiliates signed up through eJunkie through Get FooBox, and also our payment system there. Because eJunkie hasn't really updated their system in a long time, and there's
17 years.
Yeah, and there's no really good back end for affiliates or publishers. We've decided to move that, and we did. So when we built FooPlugins, that was one of the things we wanted to focus on as well. So we're using easy digital downloads, but we're also using the Affiliates Pro plugin and the EDD integration with that. So we're actually probably about a day away from migrating all of our Get FooBox users to FooPlugins, and that's another lesson to be learned is when you switch platforms, it's going to create some headaches. So take some time and try to get the right one right off the bat. Because we have to transfer license keys, we built our own licensing system and all that stuff needs to be transferred, but we're almost there. So
nice. So, roughly a year, we go back to the launch. You're doing, your 5x where you're at when you started, if not a little bit more. Growth is still going to come as you're launching new product. Take people down. So that was great. That was fun. We're on the top of the rainbow. But now tell people cash flow, reinvesting into the company. Like you said early on, you didn't reinvest that money from the first business. How are you reinvesting the money now, managing cash flow with support folks, if you're hiring support folks, and just R&D for new products?
Right. Well, that's one of the things that Brad and I decided early on. As soon as we started getting enough revenue to warrant it, we wanted to put it right back into the business. So the large portion of all the revenue we make goes right back into the business. Now, there's a lot of costs associated with it. Our hosting, again, was with WP Engine, which is pricier than most hosting because of all the benefits you get from that. We had to set up a legal business between my LLC and Brad's .co or .cc, which is he's in South Africa, and then we had to create an LLC partnership business between both of our businesses because he's international and I'm in the U.S. Well, I guess we're both international, and so there was some costs associated with going to see an accountant several times to kind of hash things out and see how we are going to do things. There was costs associated with setting up the different bank accounts with the PayPal Pro and the Flow system there. We pay monthly for that. We also use Google Apps for our email, so there's costs associated with that. I've got some notes here. We went from using a support system called Freshdesk, which is awesome, but for the integrations we wanted to do, the technical stuff, we ended up going with Help Scout, which you've probably seen a few articles around lately about Help Scout, especially Yoast posted something pretty in-depth about that, how they switched, and that is a cost. And then, of course, the premium themes and plugins. So we had some initial setup costs, but then the ongoing stuff are these monthly services that we have to deduct from the gross. And then, of course, things like marketing, right? So we are pushing this year to sponsor several different WordCamps. We've also just become a sponsor of Pressnomics this year out in Chandler, Arizona. I'm really excited about that. I've met Joshua Strebel a couple of times. He's a cool guy. Yeah, you should, man. It should be good. Yeah. So then again, Brad and I were both doing support. So several months ago, before FooPlugins launched, we knew we had to get a support person to at least act as the first line of defense. And along with that comes a lot of documentation, FAQs, a lot of time spent doing that. So we did hire a support person. He's an awesome guy. His name is Matt Cromwell, and he is our support solutions manager. And we met him in person. Well, I met him in person in Miami for the first time the day before we launched FooPlugins, and he had been doing support. So there's a cost associated with paying for his services. So there's a lot of costs involved. Yeah. So it's about you can't just take this money and then grow, right? So really what we take home is not all that much, and we've got a couple other developers that help us with some stuff too. So it's not all tulips and roses, I think, or not tulips, but it's not all roses, as you said earlier. Yeah. But it's really, we've transitioned more from, hey, this is our cool paid plugin, I hope you like it and I hope it does well for your site, to this is a real business and we need to treat it like one. Yeah. So I
mean, you are standing next to your former self saying, this is what you should have been doing. This is what you should have focused on. Because it's great for folks jumping into the WordPress market to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to make some extra revenue on putting together a theme or a plugin. And that's fun and that's great. I'm making a couple thousand. But if you're not focused on the long game, then potentially you run into the hiccups like you ran into where you had to kill off the business or other things crop up. But then when you actually say, okay, time to scale, time to quit the day job and turn this into a business. It's not just I'll just make another product and sell, and my naturally my revenue will go up. No. There are costs, legal costs, bank costs, accounting costs, operational costs. And the one thing that folks don't realize, as little as it costs to, let's say, pay for Basecamp or subscribe to FreshBooks or whatever, those all start to add up. These little incremental costs go from, hey, it's only $20 to, hey, now I'm paying $500 a month for all these different services. What the hell just happened here?
But they're all only $20, right?
They're all only $20.
Yeah.
Interesting economic dilemma that we find ourselves in with SaaS products, because they all are cheap and they do a lot of great stuff, but they're all doing a lot of great things, very finite, and it's just all stacking up.
So that also speaks to having a good plan when you go in, right? So you mentioned, well, I'll just create another product. And that's what a lot of what you see in the marketing world is people create products one a week, a PDF ebook that they sell for $5 or $10 or whatever. And that takes, in my opinion, a lot more work than focusing on one thing and growing one product or one platform, right? So you end up spinning your wheels a lot, and you're always looking for the next best thing instead of focusing on the thing that you do have and making it the best it can be and solving people's problems.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I just got a couple more questions before we wrap up the formal interview. Do you see your business as $1 million business?
Absolutely, we do. Again, this goes back to the business plan. So Brad and I, we Skype all the time, and we wrote up a loose outline of where we wanted the business to go. It came from discussions and ongoing discussions and brainstorms, but we've decided on 3 phases of our business. So phase 1 was to release our own plugins on FooPlugins and get everything migrated and transferred and working as we wanted to. The second phase of that business was to open the marketplace to third-party plugin developers. And again, that's we're going to make an announcement on Friday, the May 18th at WordCamp Austin about that, and have our first third-party plugin developer on there. We're very excited about that. It's a well-known plugin and a well-known guy and some quality stuff. So that is phase 2. And of course, you've got all these moving parts kind of going as you're doing these different phases with the continuation of our own products and that sort of thing. And then phase 3 will be, I can't say too much about it, but phase 3 will be more of a SaaS-based system. And the long-term plan is definitely to be $1 million company and more so. But it's going to take a lot of work, and to scale, as we kind of mentioned earlier, it's going to take a lot of reinvesting, because we're going to need to build a larger team. We have a team now, but a much larger team of people to make sure that we're servicing our products and our customers in the right way.
Yeah, and folks, don't get bedazzled by the fact that we're saying, hey, we want to make $1 million business, and the next time I have Adam on, he's going to be sitting on a yacht, talking about the next plugin. No.
Right.
You need that kind of money, right? You need that kind of revenue to build a team, hire these people, and reinvest. And then, and then the more you're scaling, the more your costs are going to increase. So your FreshBooks at $20 will no longer exist, because you'll need an accountant who's going to be $50,000 a year or $60,000, whatever it is.
Exactly.
So these numbers, although they sound great, especially to freelancers, there's real necessity to have this cash flow and this income to build something great.
Yeah, and Matt, if I could just add really quick, one of the lessons I've learned is that one thing always leads to another, right? So I don't want to get too ethereal here, but I'm really a believer in having your vision and making a vision board or manifesting your own destiny, right? So if you shoot for $2,000 a month, that's all you're going to attain. If you shoot for $1 million plus business, then you might make 200,000 or 500,000, or you might make $1 million. But if you limit your vision, you're going to limit your ability to grow. And one thing does not always become the last step. Every little bit of my journey with my own websites and then my own products and that sort of thing has been a stepping stone to the next thing. And I firmly believe that FooPlugins and then the additional services we have planned are also stepping stones to the next product or service or whatever we decide to produce. So believing is the key.
That's tremendous. Tremendous. I mean, I'm done. I'm done. That is it. That what a way to end the more formal interview. No, that's great. You answered everything with honesty, and that's what I was looking for out of this episode. This is the first kind of episode where I've actually spoken, or folks have actually come on to say, yes, here's what I'm making. Flat out, here's what I'm making. Here's what we're doing. So I think it's going to be a turn for this for these interviews. Awesome. You already named a lot of the software stuff that you use, so I want to jump into the lightning round.
All right. Ding, ding, ding. I'm ready.
Ding, ding, ding. Let me just pull this up right here.
I just did a Wheel of Fortune interview last week, or audition, so I feel like I'm
awesome.
back there now. Yeah,
Awesome.
I don't think I got it. I'm supposed to get an official letter, but I was one of the first group cut. But it was a great experience, a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
So there you go.
Random fact right there.
There you go.
Awesome. So the one plugin you cannot live without, besides your own.
The one plugin would probably be WordPress SEO. It's helped me learn what SEO is and does, and over the years. But it really allows you to drill down and target each page or post on your site, as probably everybody knows. But that's definitely one of the standards, and then Gravity Forms would be another one.
Awesome. A favorite WordPress or business book?
Oh boy, I bought the plugin development book from Justin Tadlot,
Nice.
and Brad Williams,
Williams.
and there's a third person. Sorry, I forget who the third person is, but that taught me a lot about the intricacies of plugin development.
Yeah.
And I should mention also that Vladimir Privalak had a plugin development book years ago that was probably my first step in getting to know what plugins can do.
Awesome. Yeah, that is one of the top recommended books. I actually had Brad on yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
A quote you live or run your business by?
Well, no quote specific other than to say honesty and transparency has gone a long way in building trust and customers who love you and love your product and who promote you without you asking.
Awesome. The best business or career advice you've ever received?
Well, this is kind of a quote, right? So,
Yep.
and I don't know who said it, but it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission. So I spent a lot of time in building, the whole monetization thing again, going, well, should I do this? Is this the right thing to do? And will people get mad at me and this and that? But I've learned you just do it. If it feels right, do it. And if it doesn't work, say, lesson learned, and I'm sorry it didn't work out.
Yep.
I think a lot of people get stifled with trying to make sure that they're doing the right thing, and then they end up not moving forward.
Not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
What's the longest a client project has ever taken?
Oh, boy. Probably 6 months.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah.
If you had to switch to another CMS, what would it be?
WordPress 3.6. I really, because I'm so happy with, and I'm a WordPress fanboy, of course, but I'm so happy with the platform, and it's become so extensible that I don't have any interest in switching.
Awesome. Who should I interview next?
Oh boy. Wow. I'm on the spot a little bit. There's so many good people out there. Have you interviewed Pippin?
Yes.
Okay. Have you interviewed Rob from Real Fat Media?
No, I have not.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he chimes in on Twitter a lot.
Yeah. Who else? Boy. Man, I should have had this ready.
That's okay. That's
There's so many
fun of the lightning round.
There's so many cool people. How about Yost? How about Juiced?
No, I have not done him. I have not gone after him yet.
That'd be a good one.
I shall
Or
try.
here you go. How about Chris Weigman
Okay.
from Better WP Security,
Awesome.
and also from Bit 51.
Awesome. Very cool. What's the one question that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Do I have any special party tricks?
Do you have any special party tricks?
I do. I have an artificial left eye.
Really?
And I do. And I can touch it and move it, and I can take it out too, but we'll save that for late night word camp.
That is awesome. That is awesome. You should go on to the Dradcast, which is run by Brad and Dre Meta.
Right.
And use that as your WordPress party trick.
We'll
That's
see.
awesome.
I just might.
One final question. I didn't want to steal the thunder from your ending comment from the formal round. Is there a WordPress business that's doing it right that you say these guys are really doing it? I want to go after them.
Well, I don't want to keep hounding on our integration with WP Engine or our use of their service, but I remember when they first launched and I signed up with them. It was at WordCamp Phoenix. I think I got a free account from Trafton there, and I went in and I thought, it's cool, but this does not make sense to me. The back end. But seeing how they've grown so fast and seeing how they've focused so much on support and then the redesign of their back end now, that's what I would like to emulate, right? So you continually, I used to be in manufacturing back in the day, and it's called continuous process improvement, right? So you take feedback from your customers, or you analyze the data. Something I learned at Amazon, data metrics is everything. Look at everything and how it's going, and start to streamline and change things and adapt. So if I could emulate, we're going to keep adapting and making things better.
Awesome. Tremendous interview. Love to get you back to talk about some of the other nooks and crannies, but we'll save that after your launch and check back in with you to see how you're doing with the business. So where can folks find you on the web to say thanks?
Well, they can find us at FooPlugins.com, of course, and I am on Twitter as WP Modder, and Brad is on Twitter as Theme Urgency, and also ThemeUrgency.com.
Awesome. Adam, tremendous interview. Folks, if you want to stay in touch with these interviews, mattreport.com, mattreport.com/subscribe. The #1 WordPress business podcast on the web, at least to my knowledge.
Well, we're agreed.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Adam, thanks for doing the show.
Thanks so much, Matt. Take care.
Take care.